in my 40s, CJ, I couldn't control it. I could suppress it. And I had some, I'm going to say, strange behaviors, because you're so full of emotions that you don't understand. Because when you suppress it, it's got to come out somewhere, seeing spirit, hearing spirit. This is not the only way that we pick up energies around us. There's like 8 different ways, 8 different senses, and seeing, as they call it, clairvoyant, is only one of them.
Welcome to Supernormalized, the podcast where we challenge the conventional, break boundaries, and normalize the seemingly supernatural. Join me, CJ, as we explore less uncharted realms of existence and unravel the mysteries of life experience. My treasured listeners, if you have a life story or healing modality or unique knowledge that you'd love to share, reach out to me at supernormalized, that's supernormalized with a Z, at proton.me. Let's together embrace acceptance of the supernatural and unusual as what it really is. Completely normal. Today on Supernormalized, we have Scarlet Poretta. As a child, Scarlet was able to see spirits, read energy, and foresee events, and for many years, her abilities frightened her. This was an amazing talk of the connection between being aware and the understanding of the intersection of the spiritual world with our world. And Scarlet is all over it. She has a full understanding of it and expresses it so beautifully. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this show. So please enjoy. Before we start, I just wanted to add this in. At the end of this episode, I included some prayer technology that might be of interest to people. So if that is of interest to you, stay on till the very, very, very end. Just after the music, you'll hear some more interesting things. Okay, until then. Welcome to Supernormalized, Scarlet Poretta. Scarlet, you've had a challenging sort of time as a child. You were able to see spirits and read energy, and for you that was quite disturbing and scared you. Growing up with that, you changed and learned how to deal with that energy and became a psychic medium and able to reach into the other worlds, and it's a normal thing. Can you tell us about your life? And welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me as a guest. It's an absolute delight for me to be here. And prior to the show, we were talking about how cool the name of your show is. And I'm liking that this topic is becoming a little more normalized, because I think it's so important for, many people like yourself and myself, because we chatted about how these things happen to us as children and we had nowhere to turn, or people would roll their eyes or judge us, right?
Yeah,
as as a child, I saw a lot of strange things, CJ. I saw
yeah,
a lot of weird things. And in the imagination of a child, they, maybe they were accurate, maybe it was based on my imagination at that time, but it's nevertheless, it was a frightening experience because it was unexplainable. And I find that this topic, and the paranormal and energy in general, like anything new agey, whatever you want to label it, it is untangible. And here in this realm, we love the tangible. We love what we can see, touch, feel, experience, and so if we can't see it, if we can't touch it, it's not real, right? It's our
mm,
imagination, or there's something wrong with us.
mm,
And I come from an educated family, and I myself have an education. I've gone to university, And, it's one of these things where it's like, oh, shh, don't talk about it. This is, people are going to think you got to go to the loony bin. And the interesting thing too, CJ, is one of the paranormal investigators that I've worked with was a firefighter. And when he, unfortunately, he dealt with, quite a bit of, some PTSD because he was able to see more than just what was happening in front of him. He dealt with many very unpleasant, calls. And so he goes to tell his supposed therapist that's supposed to be there on his side and so on. Well, I work in the paranormal and I do see things that are a little beyond this realm. They started labeling him as like a bit quacky,
Yeah.
and took his driver's license away. And
Oh, that's
it
awful.
was a big, right? It was a big, big, thing for him to come back and get normal. And so I thought, wow. So yes, we fear being judged. And for the longest time, I kept it very, very quiet. I kept it under wraps. And there was what I thought experiences that would happen, by accident, like a family member coming to visit and then they passed away, things like that, or someone in the family passed away. Very, very bizarre, very bizarre. And you just keep it quiet and you think, oh, it's a coincidence. In my 40s, CJ, I couldn't control it. I could suppress it. And I had some, I'm going to say, strange behaviors, because you're so full of emotions that you don't understand. Because when you suppress it, it's got to come out somewhere. Seeing spirit, hearing spirit. This is not the only way that we pick up energies around us. There's like 8 different ways, 8 different senses, and seeing, as they call it, clairvoyant, is only one of them. We can
Mm.
hear whispers, as I do. Sometimes we can smell, oh, someone's perfume, or someone's smoking a cigar, or
Yes.
I've smelled, some of the people that I've had a pleasure of reading their pot roast that they used to make on a Sunday. There's so many things we can taste. Sometimes if it's an unpleasant, sometimes we taste blood. Like I don't want to, damper, like I don't want to, get things grossed out here. Sometimes we taste that. Sometimes we feel them touch us. Sometimes we feel an emotion. There's so many different ways. So if you shut down one way of seeing, I'm going to say seeing, well, the
Yeah.
other senses are not going to shut down. And so then we might come across a little weird, or we can't control our emotions or whatever, right? It was a tough thing. But in my 40s, I guess it was because my kids were older. You
Mm.
start feeling a little more comfortable in your skin, even financially, things were starting to feel a little more safer. And boy, oh boy, did they ever nip at me. I couldn't sleep. I had all kinds of experiences. And then eventually, here's the funny thing, because I never thought I was psychic or a medium. I used to go and see mediums or psychics, and they used to say, oh, you're a psychic, oh, you're a medium. I'm like, oh, pshaw, whatever. Like, really? This is not, I am not. And just kind of, oh, what do they know what they're talking about? Oh, I'm just going to go on my life. And this one Saturday, I remember it as if it's happening right now. I was in one of my favorite shops, and I knew the shopkeep, and she was so stressed out because the psychic that she had that was supposed to come in on this Saturday had come down with a very bad cough, and she was quite ill and she couldn't make it in. And so here I am shopping, minding my business, and she says, I need a psychic on today. And she's like, Scarlet, you're psychic. She goes, yes, you are. So we went back and forth and bantered like a couple of kids. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. And I thought, okay, this is someone that I like. I really like. I've grown to even love her and respect her. And she's in distress. And who wouldn't want to come to someone's, help, right? And so I thought, okay, I wanted to be there for her. And I thought, who's gonna come and see me? It's a Saturday. So then she didn't have any bookings at that time. So here I go, and I say, okay, fine, I'll help you out today. So I had about 5 readings that day. I couldn't believe it. And that was a really interesting experience too, because we think that going to see a psychic is maybe entertainment, And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is. But I got a couple of readings that were serious, like, I've been diagnosed with this illness. How long do I have to live? And I was like,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, we'll sit down, have some fun, because that's what a psychic meant to me, right? I very quickly learned that this is something that you've got to take with such responsibility.
Mm.
People really rely on paranormal investigators, psychic mediums, really rely on us. And so anyways, I finished that Saturday and I thought, that's it, I'm done. I did it. I helped her. I'm done. She calls me on a Thursday of that week and she says, I have to put you on the schedule. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I have a demand for you. I have a demand.
Word got around.
I said, what the heck? So I thought, okay, the universe is calling me to do this. I'm going to go with the flow.
Nice.
Let's see. And at that point, then I started doing a little more research and, stronger understanding of what was involved, and, grew my skill, and really paid attention to the skill set. Fumbled a little bit because, let me tell you, when you do a lot of readings without doing proper preparation before and after, and proper cleansing after, you take that junk home. So I've had some interesting experiences. So, you trial and error, you kind of trip and fall every so often, but yeah. And the rest is history, my friend. I'm known across North America. It's now becoming more international. Who would have thought? And I don't advertise. I've never advertised, which is blows my mind still to this day. And at the same time, I am so, so absolutely honored and grateful, for the ability to be able to help people, in life and in their journey, so that's it in a nutshell, CJ.
Well, when you're tapped on the shoulder by spirit, you have to actually step up. And it sounds like
Yeah.
that you were tapped.
Indeed, indeed. Like, how crazy is that? That's where this is where we know there is so much more than the tangible world that we live in. There's so much more.
Mm,
And one of my dear friends who does paranormal investigation, the ones that we used to do it with, and I say used to because that was prior to COVID, and things have kind of calmed down with that. It starts to pick up again.
yeah.
But she used to say to me, there is no such thing as a coincidence. You always have to look at it as paranormal first. You can debunk, no
Mm,
problem.
mm.
But even if it is like the wind that slams a door shut, like, what are the chances of the wind slamming a door shut like that? Like, you have to really pay attention to it. Maybe it was a big gust of wind, or maybe it was a gust of wind that spirit then decided to ride that wave and use. So
Mm.
you've got to always pay close attention. There is no such thing as a coincidence.
That's right. That's right. I do believe that we actually live in a like a soup of spirits. They're all around us all the time, and whether we see them or not is another thing.
Yeah, all the time, like all the time. So I get some questions sometimes. People are like, so in the privacy of your boudoir, are they watching us? And so I always joke,
Absolutely.
yes, and they're rating you too, like 10 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Like, I joke. Do they watch? Maybe. We're hopefully too engaged to pay attention to that, but they are around us all the time, all the time,
Yeah, well, they're definitely around. I mean, you'll hear spirit knocks and all sorts of things going on.
all
So,
the time.
yeah.
Yeah, all the time. It really is fascinating for me. And some people are, they're frightened of it, right? And there's a lot of people out there that, they might want to go see a medium, or they might want to, you know, um, delve into why their home might be potentially haunted, but they're afraid of it. And I often wondered, where does this fear come from? And that's where I'm going to sound like a broken record, CJ. It's not tangible. So if you and I were hanging out and you had gone to, the bathroom or something, and now I'm hiding behind the door, right? And you open the door and I go, boo, right? And you'll jump, and then you'll go, oh, it's you, Scarlet. right? And so this experience that jolted you, you now have a logical explanation for it, right? Now you
Yeah.
can see me, right? You can touch me. I'm right there. The challenge, though, in this spirit world, in the paranormal, is we'll get that, and then there's nothing tangible to help us move through that experience. And that unknown is what makes us feel so uncomfortable, right? That's the tricky part. It's that constant battle between the tangible and the intangible. Maybe we'll get over it one day. I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's a matter of experience and also being open-minded to um, the possibilities and maybe even the adventure of that exploration of that understanding.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And you're right. We have to remain open-minded. At the end of the day, we are, because it is a tangible world, we're in charge of this realm. This is our realm, and so I hope that gives, the people out there a little bit of peace in understanding that we're actually in charge. Like we can give them commands. We can say, now's not a good time to talk. You need to go. Come back in 3 days. And they come back in 3 days.
Yes. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's important to actually be able to set those boundaries sometimes. In fact, if you are really open and you find that you are being pestered by spirits and wish to stop them, what would you actually suggest to people to be able to actually help them set those boundaries to, give them some peace?
That is a great, great question. Setting boundaries is important and communicating with them the same that you would communicate boundaries to a good friend or even a stranger would be how we would handle spirit. So if you don't want them to pop up in front of you, or, stand at the foot of your bed as they often do, in my world, and just show up while in the middle of, sleeping, you tell them, here are the ways that you can communicate with me, and here's when you can communicate with me. And they on the most part will respect it, unless there is an emergency or something urgent. If they're still poking at you, then there is something else going on. But on the most part, they will understand those boundaries. We tell them how we want to be communicated with.
Mm, yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's really that simple.
Mm. So, what was happening for you between those early years and up to the age of 40? I mean, obviously, you were still getting spirit contact.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
It was a tough thing. It was a tough because some of them were uncomfortable. Some of them looked like weird clowns. I would just, as a little girl, I would just go away, just go away, just go away, which was a dangerous thing. And so sometimes I do work with psychic children. And one of the things is that spirit didn't look pleasant to me. So I just closed my eyes and said, I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. And so, okay, there goes my haunted.
How did you do that?
Don't know. I don't know. It always does that. I call it my haunted computer. So spirit must have liked something that I said, because I don't know why it does that. Every so often it randomly does. So it liked something.
Odd.
Very strange.
Yeah.
So what I say to these children and anybody else is, don't say I don't want to see you, because then they won't show themselves,
Yeah, that was
but
still
they're
there.
still there. But they're
Yeah.
still there. And so I learned that the hard way as a child. I really did. I learned that as a hard way. And it's it's awful when you try to suppress it, because when you try to suppress it, you end up with I'm going to say this with the utmost respect, because there are people that deal with this out there. Comes out in anxiety, it comes out in depression, comes out in what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this? Why am I hearing these voices in my head? Why am I constantly feeling like someone's watching me? And so when you swallow those emotions, you can't talk to anybody about it. It becomes worse, and it grows and it grows and it grows. So every so often it would just come out. Forgive me for saying it like this, but like verbal diarrhea. So there would be moments where it's like, oh my gosh, something gets blurted out. And I've been to blurt things out.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And eventually, they'll show up in your dream. They'll come to you one way or another. We can't suppress it. They will come in a different way because there's different ways for them to communicate with us.
Mm.
Then eventually, I just saw them with clarity. I don't even know why. It was almost like maybe the time was right. I don't know.
Mm.
But there was the odd one that I would say, slipped through the cracks, where they really would communicate with me. Like, I recall, hanging out with one of my girlfriends. We were probably in our 30s at the time. And she had introduced me to a group of her friends, and we were hanging out at their home. And unbeknownst to me, there was, this photo of this girl. And unbeknownst to me, what had happened to her. And I just kept hearing this whisper. So everybody's talking. Everybody's, oh, haha. Some people are even drinking, whatever. And I'm not, because I that's just not my thing. And I keep hearing this woman talking to me. I drowned, and she's showing me herself in this white gown, wet, with the water up to her knee. I can still see it like now. And I'm like trying to focus. Oh, ha ha ha. And I keep hearing this woman trying to communicate to me. When I see what I'm envisioning in a photo in the room that we were hanging out. And very nonchalantly, I said to my girlfriend, I said, "Oh," I'm like, "Ida, who is this? She's so pretty." Like, I'm not gonna say, "I hear her voice." I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say that,
Yeah, that's the weird way to approach it, but yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I'm like, "Oh, who is that?" And she says, "Oh, this is so and so." I can't remember her name. I think it was Valerie. She passed away. And they were up at some cottage as a group of friends, and she drowned,
Mm.
and I thought, oh my goodness. Now, I never really communicated that to anybody other than really now. I did share it with Ida once she understood what I did,
Yeah.
but I didn't in that moment. I was just like, that is nothing but messed up. And when you can't communicate that to someone, you're hearing this voice. Now you got this message from your friend that that's what's going on. You start to really question yourself in so many ways. It's like, why am I like this? What is this? This is crazy. People are going to think I'm crazy. I'm an educated woman. Like, what is happening? All of that stuff goes on you. Really second guess yourself. It can be a little painful at times.
Yeah, yeah, I completely understand that. Growing up with my open abilities as well, throughout early childhood leading up into preteen and teenage years, I found that I had to suppress all of it because it just cast me as the weirdo. Um,
It
and
really does.
and it's like, but for me, this is normal. Why can't I talk about this? And there was no one at all in my like circles that understood any of it at all. So it was really
It's
tough.
hard.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so hard. I really feel for you because um you're not alone. I'm sure that your listeners are going, that's me. So
Yeah,
I'm really impressed with you that you're doing a show like this to bring out this information so that people who feel alone, people like you did, like I did, no longer will feel alone. And I think that is such a big, it makes a big difference.
mm,
Makes a big
mm.
difference.
Well, I think that also the other big difference is that spirit does and spirits do reach out to people and attempt contact all of the time. And depending on how open you are, is how easy it is for you to pick that up. And, I'm certain that a lot of people do shun people because of these experiences, because they've had the experience themselves and have to step away from it because they don't want to be cast in an unusual light because of the way society sees people that have these abilities as being unusual. I mean, look at the way Hollywood casts people like us and
I
our
know,
understanding. It's like we're always, the weird person, the horror person, the
right?
yeah,
I know. And there is, but that stereotype, because I'm going to call it a stereotype, is
mm,
changing. It's
it is,
changing.
it is.
In my world as a psychic medium, you would be surprised with the nature of people that come to me. People who are VPs of banks, people who are journalists, like big journalists, that they're award-winning journalists. Things are changing. But there is still a little bit of fear and stigma. It'll change though, because what's happening is the people who are coming forward to talk about this information no longer, and I'm going to say this again with love and respect, look like people that live in the back of the woods, because for the longest time, it was those individuals because they had nothing to lose. They were coming forward. Oh, I saw an alien. Oh, it scraped the side of my house. And everybody's going, oh, okay, whatever. You live in the back of the woods and goodness knows what animal did that. No, you're starting to see people who are educated, who are, executives. They're successful people. I'm going to say successful because really at the end of the day, what does that mean?
Yeah.
These are people that are perceived to be, intelligent, successful, educated people. We're no longer seeing, just those other individuals. And I hate to say it like that because at the end of the day, we're just such a beautiful melting pot of human beings. Um, but it just didn't lead to the credibility, of the stories. It didn't lead to the credibility of someone who was, in maybe high profile position, who was having these experiences. That happened to me. I was in the office one time because I do some other work as well. And this was prior to COVID. And an executive walked into my office, closed the door, and started sharing a story with me because we lived in the same area. So he lived about maybe 3-4 houses down, and he, for whatever reason, felt compelled to talk to me about his daughter who sees things and had seen things in our area. And he sat down and I'm listening to him. I don't know why and after he said it, he goes, oh my goodness, I don't even know what. Please don't tell anybody I shared this with you. I said, well, I'm not going to share with you, with anybody, I should say, provided you don't share what I'm about to share with you. Your daughter is correct. What she's seeing is correct. I've seen it too. We've experienced things in our home as well. And then you could see him exhale. And after
Yeah.
that, it was like a little bit of because there was that understanding. There was a closeness, a kindred. He looked at me more as like a kindred spirit, not just someone that he worked with and someone that was a neighbor. And he shared with me that, you know, him and his wife had some experiences in the home. They had someone come in. Oh, it was insane. What he shared with me was insane because what they believe is when the home was being built, the gentleman that was one of the main framers, I guess, or carpenters, was slowly passing away, and he knew he was passing away. And by working on the home with the kind of feelings that he had opened some portals and left them open without realizing it.
Oh, wow.
So that had just left, some room for some interesting activity in this brand new home. This was a newly built home.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's not like there was an existing home. I get it. Some hauntings come with the land. I get that. But in this case, it was directly with the home. And so this lady comes in. He was sharing with me. She comes in, she starts doing, some exorcism style prayers. And where these supposed portals were, in some cases, like tiny, teeny, tiny spiders would just come out like you see in the movies. He said, I have never experienced anything like this ever in my life. Once she closed the portals, everything was fine. Everything was fine. He'd never experienced any problems. So, anyways, that's what's starting to happen. And people, why he came to talk to me, I don't know. I don't know what made him feel compelled, but whatever it was, I'm certainly glad that he did, that he felt comfortable, to come and chat with me about it. But it's getting out there more and more and more. So I'm glad. I'm glad for that.
Mm. Sounds like he was compelled by spirit.
It happens. It happens a lot.
Mm.
I get those messages. And sometimes it's not a client, sometimes it's a friend. It's like, I have to talk to you. And I love the full moon because it always fishes out. It always fishes out those type of messages. I feel compelled. I need to talk to you. Do you have 5 minutes for me? And of course, everybody needs 5 minutes from me during a full moon, which is always a chuckle. And I do my best to fit everybody in for at least 5 minutes. So it's just it's funny.
That's
But
excellent.
you and I were talking earlier about how it is becoming normal.
Mm,
It is becoming a little more mainstream, do I dare say, a little more acceptable. And even a lot of the churches are bringing it back. And there are a lot of conversations now. You'll hear priests talking about exorcisms, talking about that other world, and how to handle it, and how to discern between what a ghost actually is and what something not pleasant is. They start talking about it. And you and I were talking about we use the example of an electrical socket,
mm.
and when my son was 3 years old and he goes to put his finger in it, and I would say, no, 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 you can't touch that. That's danger, danger, right? Well, today my son is using it and even takes it apart. And guess what? We're all using that electric socket. We're plugging it in all the time. And electricians use that socket and they don't get hurt unless, of course, something rare happens or unusual happens. And I'm thinking that, churches wanted to shut it down because of the potential dangers of not being able to use this energy or these experiences, in a healthy manner. Some people can get what I call infected. So I think it's important while this world exists, while we have experiences, I believe that it's so vital that we treat that energy with the utmost respect and responsibility. And we treat the energy, our own energy, with that same utmost respect, and responsibility. With the readings that I do, honestly, CJ, I would love to eat cheesecake every day and coffee every day and maybe have a good glass of wine every day,
I think everyone
but I don't.
would.
I don't, because I am concerned about my frequency and being able
Mm,
to understand different frequencies. And I need to have that clarity so that I can discern between a happy, a benevolent frequency versus one that's not so nice. So we
mm.
really have to approach this world with a huge responsibility. We really do.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it is a huge responsibility to be able to tune into the spirit world, and it's great that you have that discernment. Did you ever have a time when you didn't have that discernment with
Yes.
spirits? What happened?
Sorry, I'm giggling because you had to see me. I was sick. I was often sick. I
Ah,
had like black under my eyes. I was feeling exhausted. I didn't feel well. I would go to sleep and I remember like now right in front of my eyes, I could see like a rug burn happening on like my skin actually being pulled back.
oh wow.
And here I am like relaxing in my bed, like there's no reason. It's not like I'm even leaning it on the bed sheet or anything. It's just I'm watching it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So we do need to be so careful. I'm gonna put it maybe a little bit in perspective.
Yeah.
When we see a human being that maybe would be, harmful to us, or maybe looks like he or she is a dangerous person, or maybe they look clinically ill, or you know that you've got this super mean neighbor. Do you go and encourage a conversation or shake them up? Hey, how's your day? What are you doing? I would like to talk to you. Can you move this for me? Right? And we don't go knocking on those doors. We stay away from them, maybe out of respect, maybe out of fear, or whatever it is. We don't want to disturb them. We should be doing the exact same thing in this world as well. And notice I call it in this world because to me it really is a different world. We've got this realm and there is that other world. So you got to really be very mindful of the conversations that you're having. And we would not force another human being to speak to us. We would not force another human being to prove something to us. We just wouldn't force them. But yet
Mm.
we feel that it's okay to do that with spirit that's on the other side. And that's when we start getting ourselves in trouble. And if you're not doing the right protection, and if you're not leading a life that is protected and responsible, eating well, taking care of your body, you're going to get attachments. And I'm not saying that to scare anyone. I'm just saying that to be very mindful of what
Mm.
you're doing out there.
Definitely, yeah, that's just a fact of life, I think, and protection is certainly a wise thing to do. And I mean, there is so many different technologies and different religions that work really
Exactly.
well. And I mean, we're from the West, so Western technology would be Christian in a lot of
Right,
ways. And
right,
so,
right.
personally, for me, we in our house we use Psalms to put up barriers and create spaces. I
Yes.
mean, it's got the reason why it works is because it's been used for, so many
Eons.
hundreds of years.
Exactly. Eons.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear you say that because I do the same. There are prayers that I do daily. And for whatever reason, that darker world fears the Christian world.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there maybe is some history, between those two worlds where they collided, they had an argument, they were at war. And apparently, as history says, they're still at war for our souls. And so you're right, Christianity has been doing it for many, many years. And here's now the interesting thing that I've personally learned is there are some influences that newer Christian religions or method of honoring, Christ may not be able to get rid of that energy, because that energy belongs to something that was hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago. And so if something is not working, you got to go further and further and further and further back to
Mm.
the very first type of Christianity, which is Catholicism. Don't shoot the messenger, because I know we're getting into a bit of a tricky, into a tricky, sensitive, and my intention is certainly not to offend anybody. It's These are just things that I've experienced and for me have become facts, what works and what doesn't work. And Christian prayers and the Psalms, you are absolutely right. They just don't respond well. They cringe to things like that.
Mm.
They are afraid of the name Jesus. They are afraid of Christ. They are afraid of Mother Mary, Jesus's mother.
Mm.
They're afraid of a lot of these things. So we need to use this as protection.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
For myself, I've had some spirits attacking me over the last, oh, we just say about a year, and I know when they come in, and I've actually beaten them off now, and they've lifted and they're gone. But
Yes.
for me, I got to this certain point, and it just occurred to me that I could just call on Mary because of their work, and
Yes.
I just said
It's so
Mary.
easy.
I just said
Yeah.
Mary, Mary,
Yeah.
Mary, Mary, and it worked.
Exactly.
It actually
It does.
booted them out and booted them out of the room, booted them out of the house, and zero
What is that?
influence upon me after that.
I
So,
know it exactly. And I'm so glad to see to hear you saying this, because, in my earlier years of doing this, you're taught, oh, use this incense, use this candle, use these crystals, and they might help a little bit. But those are items that are more helpful with self-care, self-kindness, and self-care. When it comes to getting rid of these nasties, you got to get the big guns out. Crystals
mm,
are not going to cut it. It's not going to, wearing a crystal bracelet is not going to cut it. It's just not enough. You got to get the big guns out. And you're right, Mother Mary is the ultimate protector. I'm impressed that you're saying that.
thanks. It all just came to me over time. I'm a member of a group which is called the Rune Soup Premium Members Group in that's across the world now. All people that actually look into different sorts of tech and find ways that work. And
Right.
yeah, the recognition of the Christian power and the technology behind Christianity is totally. It's
It's
amazing.
insane.
It's got history and it works. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm glad that it does because it just makes life so much easier when you're not
It
stuck in
really
that
does.
pinball machine where you get
Yes.
pestered by spirits and harassed by spirits all the time.
And I wish that I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I wish I could have this open conversation with just about anybody because the power of prayer is it is so incredibly cleansing. It's so cleansing. And since I've started doing that, I've not been attacked. Okay, maybe the odd little attempt here and there, but I've not been attacked like I used to.
Mm,
It's such a simple thing, such a simple thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of resonance in those words, definitely. So
Indeed. Indeed.
So you've started at the age of around 40, practicing more openly with people in the public.
Yeah.
And over time, you've built yourself a large client base, and they're returning clients because that's just the way the world is when it comes to
Indeed.
working with spirit and wanting to know more. Have you found that you've built your skills over time? Is there anything that you found that actually helped you to build your skills in a way that helped you?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to get a little techie on everybody. My background in university is psychology, and so I've learned that the way that the two brains functions is very different. So the left brain is very logical, and so if you want to have a good communication with spirit, you don't want to be in your left brain. You want to be in your right brain. So the left brain is responsible for like the logic and the tangible. Your right brain is responsible for creativity. It's responsible for energy and the feeling of energy. And so the more you sit in that brain, the easier it is to have that conversation. As a matter of fact, you'll see a lot of mediums, and myself included, sketch and they sketch. And half the time I sketch absolutely nothing because I don't draw well. I wish I could. Oh my goodness, that would be so interesting if I could sketch what I see. But I just sketch and sketch and sketch. And you'll see actually right behind me here, I've got my pencil crayons because I'll sketch in different colors because spirit will even use different colors. Like the last a recent reading that I just did, she made me pull a teal blue color, and I said, I don't know why, but she wants me to use this. And the lady started sobbing. She says, "Oh my gosh, that was the we had a photo together and we were wearing we were all wearing that color together." And she showed it to me at the end of the reading. And so they'll communicate, they'll use all kinds of things to help me communicate. But going back to this, the key here is to stay in that right brain because logic will start having you second guess. What is that whisper? Why is that whisper? Who's saying that? What? We don't want that. We just want you to just go with that flow. The second thing is to be deeply calm. So the work that I do um, is not foreign to anyone because anyone and everyone that I've ever spoken to about this topic has had a dream about a loved one, and they say, "Oh, Scarlet, was that real? Did they really come and visit?" I'm like, "Yep, absolutely." And when we put our brain in either theta or alpha state, now we're learning a little bit more about that, they can easily communicate with us. And so some of us, for whatever reason, myself included, I can be in that deep sleep state and look awake, but I'm not awake. And so it's a weird thing. I can look awake, I can have a conversation, but as soon as we're done, I'll remember you, but I don't remember what was said because it was something else talking through me. So those are the two things. I kind of took a short answer and made it long.
That's fine.
So the two things, you want to sit in that right brain and you want
Mm.
to be in that deep, in that deep, relaxed state. Now, my goodness, you hear all kinds of people like Mind Valley, they teach you how to get into that theta state so you can manifest, right? Well, okay, we can do that, but you can get into that deep theta state so you can hear the other side. Some individuals like using substances, or I don't know, I'm going to call them drugs or maybe alcohol to simulate that. That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake to do that. Um, in my strong opinion, because I have seen where now you've left yourself open to potentially not so nice things coming in, and you won't have the ability to discern between, because you're not in this state because you've put yourself there. You're in this state because something else put you there. So it's a bit risky to do it like that. So those are my thoughts for whatever it takes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When you have a possession that's upon you, sometimes you might not even recognize that it's upon you, and you have extra ideas that you didn't have before. And people
Yes.
might say, "Oh, you've changed. You know, there's something not right, or something's just a bit unusual about you." But you
Exactly.
don't even recognize it because, that extra little being that's hopped on and is writing you is actually talking straight into what you think are your
Yeah,
thoughts.
exactly. Exactly. Which under the right circumstances can be a beautiful thing, but under the other
Wrong.
circumstances cannot be,
Exactly. Exactly.
and that's the thing. It's funny that you say it like that. And it reminded me of an investigation that we did. What we caught on the night camera is an orb. This orb entered one of our colleagues and then exited the colleague, and you could actually see his demeanor change. So he's doing one thing, it enters, he goes a little bit dumbfounded, like numb looking, and then it exits, and then you can get little, like, he kind of shakes it off and then just keeps going.
Wow.
And
That's
I thought,
proof.
right? And what's so fascinating is that particular individual did not believe in orbs. So even though he was a paranormal investigator, yeah, did
Yeah,
not
that's excellent.
believe in orbs. And we're like, do you believe now? Like, look what
Yeah.
just insane.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's for a lot of us, because we're so materialist, because we're living in the material world. It does take the first-hand experience to actually really start to make it possible.
It does. It really
Mm,
does. It's so true.
mm, mm. What is the wildest experience that you've had with working with people? I mean, or is there any sessions that you had where
Mm.
both of you come away extremely surprised? But if you could share that without any identifying information, that'd be great.
My goodness, there's so many. Which one do I choose?
I thought so.
There was a mother that changed her life profoundly. And it was a group reading. So it was like a party. And they had asked me to come by. And really it was more of a fun thing. It wasn't like supposedly a serious thing. And this mother had come in. She was visiting from Scotland, and I'm in Canada. So just to give you an idea, she was visiting and she goes, "Oh, you know what? Since she's here, I'm going to go talk to her." So in this conversation, I started explaining to her um, what this living room looked like. Someone showed me a living room. I could see where the couch was. I could see the coffee. I could see where there was a window. And then I could see that it was a male. And then this male opened the window and jumped out of it.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I said to her, "I'm so sorry. I don't even know why I'm like, why I'm seeing that." And as I kind of came a little bit to, she's bawling her eyes out. And I said to her, "Oh my goodness." She said, "That's my son. That's my son." They She wanted to know if he had killed himself, if something else had happened, and the police wouldn't give her enough information. And this happened back in Scotland, and she just wanted closure. Not only did it happen in Scotland, but it happened like 30 years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
she said, she goes, "I had gone to mediums to try to talk to my son, and nobody would ever be able nobody would ever, be able to talk to him. And he came through as clear as day." And it sat with me, this particular situation sat with me, that I still go back and I see it unfolding in front of my eyes. Because for me, at first I thought, oh my word, like I always do my best to kind of soften, some of the messages, right? But this one just came out like that.
Yeah.
But she was so happy. Like they were actually tears of joy that she could have that closure. She said, I knew it. I knew that's what happened. She said, they tried to tell me something else, but I knew it. And so I looked at her and I said, well, you now have validation that you didn't need me to talk to your son. He was speaking to you all the time. And that was a life-changing thing for her because she got that closure 30, odd years after. That's one story. Oh my goodness. Another story was I was questioning my own ability. In what sense? It's not tangible, as I keep sharing that with you, right? The old Scarlet broken record here. And we were doing a paranormal investigation. This investigation we were not supposed to be part of, but the other team wasn't able to make it, and so our friends were in a bind, and we said no problem, we're coming. So we even arrived a little bit later to this investigation. So we arrive, it's myself and my hubby, and we're sitting in the basement, the four of us, because it was two of us couples. And two weird things happened to me that day, but I'll tell you about the first one. Now, I'm what they call clairaudient. So I hear whispers, hence Scarlet's whispers. And so I hear whispers sometimes sooner than I see them. And so we're sitting downstairs and it's pitch black. Of course, the night cameras are going, the EVPs are going, and I hear this whistle. I hear a whistle. It's like a faint whistle. It's coming for me in that direction. And I'm like, did anybody hear that whistle? It's coming from over here. And they were like, well, the two men didn't hear it at all. The other lady, she was like, I think I heard something. Well, lo and behold, it got caught on the EVP. So you
Yeah.
hear this
Wow.
like whistle. Yeah, it was so cool. You hear it like a zzzz. It wasn't quite like a whistle like you would hear clearly in
Yeah.
today's world. And then you hear me say, did everybody hear that whistle? Did you guys hear that whistle? So it was so insane. So for me, it was like, oh, I do hear whispers. It was so, so bizarre. It was so bizarre.
Hmm.
So now the other thing that happened in this particular paranormal investigation, for whatever reason, the lady that we had gone to take care of her home, she would experience a lot of stuff happening in the basement. And so when we had the night vision cameras on, you could see sometimes, not all the time, like it almost looked like a snowstorm. It was like the weirdest thing. And nobody was down there when we were observing this. It's not like someone or anybody was disturbing anything. And for those of us that might be thinking, oh, maybe someone was walking on the floor and maybe that caused some dust. Well, what we were picking up we were on the other side of the home. So we were like, wow, that's kind of interesting. One of those things though that we can't prove. It's an interesting thing. Who knows what it means? We can't really debunk it. We can't really prove anything. We just periodically would see this snowstorm of orbs. So we go now downstairs, and this is around the time of the whistle. And I'm sitting there, and it's pitch black, like it's pitch black, but yet I can see this weird dog-like creature walking around the coffee table. And I'm looking at it, and I'm just watching it. And I say to it in my mind's eye, I say, I see you. You don't have me fooled. This thing walked around, shape shifted into a woman. I'm like, I'm not buying it. And then shape shifted into a child right beside me. And so now I'm going, what is your name? And it wouldn't answer. What
Oh,
is your name? I want to know your name. Tell me your name now. Now, under normal circumstances, it will tell you its name, right? They
because
are
it's a
supposed.
spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct, right? We're the boss in this realm, and when we give it a command. But now this got interesting. So my hubby, who was sitting beside me, he says, she asked you a question, answer it. What is your name? It now answered. Didn't answer me, it answered him. Now, if one wants to, so it would, and it was a god awful name. I will not repeat it because it was not a benevolent spirit. And
Yes.
clear by the way that it shape shifted, right?
Yeah, it was playing.
And yeah, it was very alarming and eerie. And you don't even want to, I didn't, you had to tell the homeowner very gently. But so now I hear this is now after we've left, right? And one of the our friends there was now getting all of the recordings and putting them together.
Mm.
So when he sent it to me, I was so freaked out. Now I was talking to my sister about it. At that time, she was really studying Catholicism. We were coming back to our roots, right? And what she was saying is, well, that's perfect. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, because if you look at the like Catholicism, there is a hierarchy in the family, right? There's the husband who's the leader, the wife who is the second leader, and then the children, right? And so because dare I call it, the demonic follows, is respectful of those rules, it will follow that pattern. So that silly thing wouldn't respond to me because I'm not the leader in that pack.
Yes.
My husband is my leader according to this thing.
Yeah.
And when he made that demand, it answered.
Mm.
And I thought, that is cool and creepy and scary, all wrapped up in one.
And it's also confirmation.
It is confirmation. And we have an EVP of that too.
Wow,
We've
that's
got the
wild.
EVP of that. Yeah. And when I looked up the name, it actually exists. Yeah. And it is
Ooh.
one of the most common ones that loves chaos.
And did you end up booting that spirit out of the room? Yeah.
We did. That was a weird experience.
Yeah.
But we did. Yeah. We
Mm.
got it. We got it to leave. And that's a tricky one because sometimes we can, most of the time we can't. Sometimes you need someone who actually knows, like you would need a priest or someone above the priest, like an exorcist, to remove these things. The good news though is most of us, we can do it ourselves. It's not like in the movies. What
Mm.
you see in the movies is really like a far gone possession that
Yeah.
maybe even the priest can't take care of or an exorcist can't take care of, because there's different stages, right? That's a whole conversation maybe for another day, but there's about three stages. And then there's what they call infestation, which could be in the home, right? And so in this lady's case, this was an infestation. It was happening in the home, not inside of her. But that's how they start. And that's how they start. They knock on the door and that's how they start. But there's a lot of there are what they call deliverance prayers, and they call them deliverance prayers for the laity, because there are deliverance prayers that people who are trained to really use that electrical socket, I'm going to use that analogy, can only use, right? But we can use and we can clear probably, I would say, 98% of the garbage that's out there, which
Mm.
is really, I think, refreshing and hopefully empowering, to know.
What do you think those, you had said garbage spirits are?
Well, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch
Mm.
out there. So I believe that there is a dark realm and then there is a white realm. For better, you know, I don't know, to just kind of label it, right? Because people need that visual.
Yeah.
So the majority of what we deal with is what I'm going to call white light. It's good, it's benevolent, right? They're people like you and I, they've crossed over. Maybe they're a little earthbound or they're a little lost. They need a hand to cross over. Maybe they have a message that they want to get across. Like there's just a whole bunch of things. But these are just good souls who just miss their family, love their family. They want to talk to their family. There's also, a realm in that white of angels and saints. And again, they're here to be our support system, right? And then there is this dark world, lower vibrational energy or demonic evil, however people want to, label that. I see that as a different realm. I don't see it as our realm. I see it as a separate realm. And those energies are sneaky. They are sneaky, and they're always trying to poke at that weak spot in your armor on a daily basis,
Yeah, continuously.
and continuously. Exactly. And some of us have like a predisposition, for it. Um, so if we look at alcoholism, some investigators or some priest would call that what they call a generational curse. So if the grandfather had it, then the father has it, well, there's a likelihood that the son would have it, or the daughter, or so on, right? So there's a predisposition for that kind of infection to be happening. And sometimes that predisposition is environmental, and sometimes the predisposition is genetic, right? So they'll poke at us in, through those types of things. Now, you asked what type are out there. I'm going to categorize them as oppression and obsession. Oppression are those nasty critters that go after the everyday woes, oh, I don't have enough money, or oh, my back is always hurting, or I don't feel well, or why do I have no energy today, or I've got a terrible headache, or whatever it is, right? Or why can't I have a healthy love relationship? Why am I cursed that way? That people will say that, right? That's oppression. They are I don't want to even give them the name of a spirit. Those are energies and critters that want to oppress us. They want to hold us down. So the minute that you start having like a negative thought, or a thought that it's not in alignment with where you want to go in life, you got to go, stop. This is not anything of this white light realm. So this is not any of my family members, loved ones. This is not anything angelic. These are not the saints. They're not going to talk to me that way. And this is something that's trying to take over. You got to go, and you got to go now. I place you at the foot of the cross. Done. You're done. Okay. And that's as easy it is, but it'll constantly be poking at you. Like for someone who's trying to lose weight, there's that constant gnawing. Oh, just one bite is not going to hurt you. Oh, just one bag of chips. Oh, you earned it. It's that kind of conversation, right? Just to
Exactly.
make it
Mm.
right. And that to me is demonic. I'm going to be that bold to say that anything that's not in alignment with what you're wanting in life or where you want to go is demonic. It wants you off its path, or off your path, I should say. It wants you on its path.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you allow, so we'll use the food, because a lot of people can relate to that. Oh, just one bag of chips. Oh, okay. Um, oh, just one candy bar. That's not gonna, if you keep succumbing to it and you go over and over and over, and then you go into what some people would call gluttony. I hate to use that, because it really is not just that easy that, if someone is eating too many candy bars, but I'm going to categorize it as gluttony. In other words, there's no control. I'm not talking about someone who, runs 40, I don't know, one of those marathons or whatever, and now is famished and eats, to replenish. We're not talking about that. We're talking about someone who has this addiction. Hear what I said just for a moment, this addiction to this candy bar or potato chips or whatever food it is, and they're using it to satiate and feel better. Okay, so that's the now when it turns into the next part. So we have oppression, and then obsession. So now it's an obsession. The obsession is the addictions. And if you can get addicted enough to something, then they can take over. And then you'll have different levels of possession.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and those are now, how many are there out there? Way too many.
Yeah,
Way too many.
yeah, yeah,
Way too many. There's some theories out there that there are something like 60 families of that particular demonic,
mm,
and then they have a whole bunch of minions. I don't know enough about it to really comment, but that's, those are some of the things that I've heard.
mm.
So we
Yeah,
got
it
to be
does.
mindful and vigilant.
Definitely, definitely. That's a very good message. And to me, it seems obvious that there is a spiritual war that's ongoing and continuous,
Yes.
whether we believe in it or not. And so, I mean, you just look at our world now. I mean, it's-
All you have to do is exactly just take a look around, and
mm,
really, it will separate. It will
yeah,
separate. We'll get those that are believers, and are white light. I'm going to use that category, Christian, whatever it is that you want to call it. And
yeah.
then there is the darkness. And I genuinely hope and pray that, that we will be able to save more souls rather than lose souls.
Mm,
I genuinely hope for that.
yeah, yeah. Well, Scarlett, we've come to the end of the show. It's been a
Wow.
fantastic talk. That was brilliant.
Talks about just about everything.
Yeah. Is there something we didn't talk about that you'd like to cover, or would you like to talk again another time?
I would love to chat with you another time. I would be delighted.
Excellent, excellent. So, Scarlett, thank you so much for being on Super Normalized. I've got all your links here that I can actually provide to people. Is there anyone anywhere special you'd like to send them specially, or
No, all of them are fine. I check all of them periodically. So yeah, thank
excellent,
you.
excellent. I'll provide those in the show notes, and I'll say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you kindly for the invite. It's been delightful to get to know you more, and keep up this incredible work that you're doing. Keep shining.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to say goodbye to listeners.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Well, that was an amazing show, and I really appreciated the depth of sharing that Scarlett brought to the table with her understanding and her of her world and her experience, and how we're influenced by spirits and also malefic spirits as well, and then how to block them out through prayer and everything too. So, if you've enjoyed today's show, please like and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube and if you're on a podcast app, please give us a 5-star rating and maybe write something nice. That'd be really cool. And if you know somebody that could benefit from this episode, please share to them. And as a part of a treat for everyone, if you are still listening at the end of today's episode, I've actually got Psalm 91. I actually did a recording of this for myself so I could learn it back to front. And I did a little recording of that. So if you stay past the music, you'll hear that. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a very good morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye for now. Well, I'm glad you stayed around. First of all, I've got the Psalm 91, which is the King James Version, and this was read out by me. And here we go. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So that one can be used for generally just keeping like a, we just say like a vigilant sort of barrier against undue influence and harm. And I find it works really effectively as well from my own experience. And I was really impressed with the way this one worked, and I thought I'd play around with it, and I ended up finding an older version of it, and I turned it into a bit of an uplifting sort of song using some of the latest technology that's around right now. So if that interests you, then listen to this next part.
Whoever dwells in the shelter divine shall find solace within the shadow's line, in the embrace of the Almighty's might. Rest assured, safe from the darkest night. Sanctuary, refuge for the weary soul. Yeah, bathed in the grace where all fears console. Divine dwelling, where peace and love reside, in the shelter of the Most High we abide. In the sacred silence, serenity flows as the heavenly whispers gently bestow strength and solace, a gentle guiding hand. In the shadow's refuge we firmly stand, gently stand, wait, a gentle guiding hand. In the shadow's refuge we firmly stand. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noon. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him, and shew him my salvation.
If you enjoyed both of those, thank you very much for enjoying, and thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. And yeah, okay, so this time it's a real bye for now.